Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today. So let's talk about AEW and let's talk about this Max Caster freestyle rap controversy that stemmed from last night's edition of AEW Dark on YouTube. Now, usually AEW Dark doesn't make a ton of headlines. A lot of people criticize it for being too long or featuring too many just cold matches, squash matches, whatever. But certainly last night's episodes generated a ton of controversy, and subsequently AEW's listened because they've had to re-upload last night's Dark episode to YouTube following this controversial freestyle rap entrance made by Platinum Max Caster during the Acclaim's entrance last night. Now, AEW received a ton of backlash on social media for Max Caster's latest rap that aired on this week's edition of AEW Dark. Now, while the rap was shown during the original airing, the episode was subsequently re-uploaded with the Acclaim's entrance edited out because of this backlash on social media. Now, last night was the 100th episode of AEW Dark, and of course it was taped last Wednesday before Dynamite in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, it saw a match where the Acclaimed teamed with Matt Hardy and The Blade for an 8-man tag team victory over the Varsity Blondes Matt Sydal and Mike Sydal. Now, before the match, as is usual, the Acclaimed came out and Caster delivered his latest rap during their entrance. Now, the rap first included a reference to Olympian Simone Biles backing out of recent Olympic competition due to a mental health issue. I'm not going to read what he said because obviously I don't agree with what he said. I mean, I'll give you my opinion on it afterwards. Caster then delivered a line that referenced the 2006 Duke lacrosse scandal, where members of the Duke University's men's lacrosse team were declared to be falsely accused of an assault and some serious allegations in Durham, North Carolina. Now, Caster then finished the rap by making a reference to Julia Hart and also talked about a faker than a PCR test, which of course is in reference to COVID-19 testing, and then was going to reference something else before his partner Anthony Bowens cut him off. Now, it must be said, clips of this immediately after airing then spread like wildfire on social media, with many people criticizing both Max Caster, AEW, production, editing, etc. for just letting this go to air. And subsequently, it's actually really difficult now to find a clip of it on social media. If you look hard enough, you'll be able to find it. I found it before, but several people posted clips of this and they've already been taken down. You get the usual Twitter sort of blank screen where it says the media has been disabled in response to a report by the copyright owner. So AEW is certainly very, very aware of this negative reaction it has generated from Max Caster's rap, and they're doing everything they can to get rid of it. The issue then would be is how on earth did this make it to air? There are so many steps that this would have surely had to go through that it's staggering that this was in the can for 6 days. 6 days. This was recorded essentially a week ago. At the time we're recording right now, it was recorded 7 days ago, and it still managed to make it to air. That is insane. That is insane. If you think, right, and I don't know if he gets approval of what he can or can't say during his raps. I don't know if he writes some stuff down and then says to whoever, Tony Khan or whoever's producing that segment, that match, whatever, I'm going to say this, and they read it, they go, yep, fine, go. If that's the case, then the heat should be on them, certainly, for allowing him to say that. If they don't check what he's going to say and they just trust him to do a freestyle rap, then again, some of the heat should be on Max Caster for that. But also, a situation should be that obviously production and people backstage in the gorilla position, or they call it the go position, or the dusty position, I think they call it in AEW. Obviously, they're watching this. They're watching the matches. They're watching Max Caster make his entrance. Surely someone must be watching that at the time and gone, we can't say that. That's offensive. That's upsetting. That's making light of some very, very serious situations here. And it's not entertaining. It's not funny. And I know so many people, again, this frustrates me as well so much. There are so many people that were trying to defend this on social media by saying, he's a heel, he's meant to get heat. It doesn't work like that anymore. It just doesn't. Everyone knows what they're watching now. This isn't like the 1990s or the 1980s or the 1970s where, one, you could say stuff like that and get away with it because the time was different, but also as well because people still believe. People still might actually think, oh, this is real, and they might actually want to generate real heat. And that's not the point here. That's not the point anymore. Times have changed. And things like this, comments like this, and I know people might see it as trivial, but it's the same when Charlotte Flair did it on Monday Night Raw, did the promo about Simone Biles then, and I know people said, well, she's a heel, she's generating heat. When you try and mock mental health, that is not reducing the stigma associated to it. When it comes to mental health, you're meant to open up the conversation. When you have people openly mock someone for pulling out of an Olympic event due to a mental health issue, and you have people mocking that decision, that sets discussion and that sets treatment and that sets back acceptance of mental health back so far. And that's the whole point. Some of the biggest problems when it comes to mental health is the ability to speak out, the ability to admit that you've got a problem without feeling like you're letting people down or you're weak or you're inferior and all that kind of stuff. And then when you have people, whether it's Charlotte Flair, whether it's Max Caster, whether it's Piers Morgan, whether it's whoever, come out and openly mock someone for that, it sets the treatment back, it sets the stigma back so far, and it's a massive problem. So I'm never one for trivializing mental health. I don't think it's right at all, and I don't think it's worth a silly freestyle rap in an entrance just to pop the crowd and try and get a little bit of heat. Be a bit more creative. Actually get heat within the ramifications that you have to work in. That's creativity. Everyone can take pot shots. Everyone can curse. Everyone can take easy shots at people with mental health or these huge scandalous stories. Everyone can do that. That doesn't make you good at generating heat. I like Max Caster. I think he's got a ton of potential. I like his raps. Even when he's been walking close to that line, I've defended him because I think it's entertaining. But there is a line. There is always a line. And ultimately, his rap stepped over it last night. Now, who should be punished for that? I don't know. Because again, if Max Caster went to someone and they said, yep, you can say that, then he'll say, well, I was told I could say that. And two, if it wasn't acceptable, why didn't they edit it out? It's been in the can, again, for 6 days at this point. And this isn't the first time something like this has kind of happened when it comes to AEW Dark. There have been comments before. I think Taz did a comment before on commentary that eventually had to be edited out. We've seen botches. We've seen injuries. We've seen things where essentially they just go for a second take. We've seen that. I remember seeing one, I think it was a Luchasaurus match. Because, and I don't watch Dark every week, but you see him on social media, but again, because people point these things out, people will say that is such a bad botch. How on earth did that make it to television? It's one thing on a live broadcast, but on a tape broadcast, I understand a warts and all approach to programming and leaving this stuff in, but certainly stuff like this. How on earth did it make it to television? When you're trivializing assault scandals, you're trivializing mental health, you stepped over the line. You stepped over the line, and I'm an AEW advocate, I'm an AEW fan, I'm a pro wrestling fan, I'm a fan of Max Caster, but someone has to be having discussions at this point within AEW of how many times is this going to happen on AEW Dark. This is the most extreme example of this, certainly. But we've seen this time and time again of stuff that just shouldn't make it to air, and you're watching it going, you had 6 days to edit all of this together, and you didn't do anything. Why? Did you think it was acceptable? Are you lazy, or are you bad at your job that you missed it? Because either one is not good. It's not good. Now, I don't know if Max Caster himself should be punished. I think he should be spoken to about it. But again, I don't want to defend him because I think the comments were abhorrent, to be honest with you. But ultimately, as well, there are other. The heat should fall on other people too, not just Max Caster. Whoever approved it, whoever heard it and decided it was fine, whoever didn't edit it, all that kind of stuff. It's unacceptable, it feels like. And again, I'm a fan of Max Caster, but that was over the line last night. That was certainly over the line, and for me, it was unacceptable. And again, I don't know if he should be punished, but certainly AEW need to reevaluate all this kind of stuff because that's happened on Dark too many times. Last night was the 100th episode, and there have been multiple times where we've seen stuff on that show that just shouldn't make it to air. Just should not make it to air. So I'm very confused by that whole thing, and I was really disappointed to see two really serious subjects be trivialized like that. I thought it was wrong. Now, speaking of Dark last night, it's been announced that former NXT superstars EverRise, yes, EverRise, great tag team, are set to debut on AEW Dynamite's homecoming edition of Dynamite tonight on TNT. A clip was revealed where it announced that Matt Lee, formerly known as Matt Martel, and Jeff Parker, formerly known as Chase Parker, they're now going by 2.0. They have joined AEW. I don't know if they've officially signed contracts or they're just going to appear on Dynamite tomorrow, but it would appear that they're with the company. They will debut tonight on the homecoming edition of Dynamite on TNT, which of course airs live from Daily's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. 2.0 have aligned with Daniel Garcia. They will go up against the team of Jon Moxley, Darby Allin, and Eddie Edwards in a 6-man tag team match. Now, obviously, they're not going to win. Certainly with those names in that match. But if you go back and watch the videos that I did when EverRise was released along with the likes of Fandango, Tyler Breeze, etc., I said at the time that I could absolutely 100% see EverRise in AEW. And that was with a group of people that a lot of them I said I didn't think should go to AEW, and I said I don't think will go to AEW. But EverRise was kind of like that one exception. And the reason I said that is because in my mind's eye, if I just tried to picture it, you can see them because they're highly entertaining, highly comedic. They've got a cult kind of following. A lot of people on social media really like them. You could see them appearing on like Being the Elite. You could see them involved in those comedic sketches. And you could see someone like an AEW and the Young Bucks and people like that going, these guys are entertaining. They can be money. Why wouldn't we pick those up? Obviously, a concern will be that they'll be lost in the shuffle. I don't know how often they're going to appear on Dynamite, if I'm going to be honest with you. As of right now, I don't think they're huge Dynamite players. But they do have plenty of shows, AEW. They do have Dark. They do have Dark Elevation. I don't even know if they're going to be part of Rampage that much, but they're certainly a team that can grow. And they've already got this bit of a cult following. And if they build up their reputation on something like Being the Elite on Dark and on Dark Elevation, we've seen teams come up through Dark and Dark Elevation and them subsequently become more prominent members on Dynamite. And maybe that's the same for EverRise. So I'm interested to see. I think it's a good pickup by AEW. Again, I know there are so many people that are saying now, another WWE name signed by AEW, but I think this was a name worth picking up. I do. And again, all the other names that were released at the same time as, Johnny Curtis, Fandango, Tyler Breeze, etc., I would say that AEW doesn't need to pick those guys up. And I mentioned it at the time, the only way that I could see those other guys appear for AEW would be on Dark or Dark Elevation. These guys, I think they will appear, of course, on Dynamite tonight, but I think they'll probably be more prominent fixtures on Dark and Dark Elevation, and then who knows? Maybe they will start appearing more on Dynamite later on this year as they, ingratiate, whatever the phrase is, themselves into AEW more. I think that'll be the way. But I think it's a good pickup by AEW. I do. Chris Jericho has had some comments about Vince McMahon's comments last week when he was talking about AEW being competition. Now, as previously noted, and it was widely talked about on social media, Vince McMahon was asked about seeing WWE seeing AEW as competition during his investors call last week. He mentioned that he didn't think it was a situation of rising tides, and he went to talk about Ted Turner and all of his assets of Time Warner coming after WWE and pushed that narrative once again. And he kind of brushed off AEW being competition and said, perhaps we should give them more talent. Subsequently, they fired Bray Wyatt, so I guess Vince doesn't lie in that case. Now, Jericho spoke with Kenny McIntosh of Inside the Ropes, who, by the way, have announced a new tour. It's going to be Paul White for later this year. So if you're a fan of the Inside the Ropes tours, be sure to check that out. Be on their website and on their social medias linked to that. Jericho said that Vince McMahon was smart to say what he did. And it's a good point. This is what Jericho had to say, quote, well, what else was he going to say, and respond to that? We don't see WWE as competition. And he was smart to say that. Jericho added that AEW is not worried about WWE. He said, quote, we're not worried about what WWE is, and we haven't been since day one. We weren't worried about what NXT did the whole time with the NXT versus AEW war, which ended in a total abysmal failure for NXT. We never once had a TV screen watching what they were doing when we were doing it. We didn't know what segments they were in. We didn't know any of that. Now, the WWE way is you're watching what the competition is doing when they were on, and we didn't do that. And it was no disrespect. We just didn't care. We were too busy worrying about our own company and about our own stories and about our own show to care what anybody else is doing. And that's one of the reasons why we did so well, is that we were concentrating on AEW, not anything else. Now, I think he's not wrong. I know that some people, the WWE loyalists out there and justifiers, will hate that, but it's true. And I mentioned it at the time when we spoke about it last week. What is Vince McMahon going to say? When they say this is an investor's call, he's trying to get people to buy WWE stock. He's trying to get them to spend their money and line his pockets and his company with money. So, of course, he's not going to come out and go, AEW's competition, we're terrified about them. He's not going to say that, is he? Of course he isn't. So what else do you expect him to say? Vince McMahon throwing a swipe to AEW at the end of it. Maybe we should give him more talent. That's Vince McMahon. He says he loves competition and he thrives on it, but he is one of the most bitter and crazy old men you will ever hear about in your life. He is a giant man-child who says he loves competition, but at the same time, he hates it. He hates people taking money out of his pocket. And that's evidence in the counter-programming he's done, not just with AEW, but for WCW, TNA, whatever promotion, Jim Crockett Promotions, the NWA, throughout his entire life. That's what Vince McMahon does. When it comes to Jericho talking about NXT, AEW absolutely battered NXT. There's no doubt about that. And people say, well, it wasn't even a war. Well, it wasn't, because AEW won from pretty much from day one. There were a couple of occasions where NXT might have had more viewers. I don't even know if NXT ever beat Dynamite in terms of the key demo. And it very much came across that AEW wasn't really focusing on NXT or WWE during that period of time. And to be honest, it's smart to. They know they're not going to put WWE out of business. They know that they're still, infinitely smaller than WWE. Of course, they've got good funding and they've got a good TV deal. And they've got a very, very good quality depth in their talent roster. But they know WWE's not going anywhere. WWE isn't going out of business. All they can do is try and make AEW a success. If their aim was to put WWE out of business, they would be gone in 12 months because their eye would be off the ball. And AEW is, I know people don't like it, but it's here to stay. And so is WWE. That's the environment we live in today, and as a pro wrestling fan, we're better off because of that. So I think Jericho's comments, to be honest, and I don't agree with everything Jericho usually says, I think it was spot on. I really do. Now, speaking of AEW being here to stay, obviously this is news that came out a couple of days ago, but less than an hour into the general sale, All Elite Wrestling appears to have sold out the August 20 episode of AEW Rampage, at the United Center. It choked in Chicago, Illinois. The Twitter account WrestleTix, which monitors ticket sales for live wrestling events, initially broke the news. It tweeted out, quote, AEW Rampage at the United Center, an early screenshot of the general public on sale. First count I grabbed was 1,020, mostly 200 section seats made available. In 5 minutes, they are all gone. Some could reemerge if somebody doesn't complete the transaction. Sold out. Now, the day was that they officially went on sale was last week, but AEW had a pre-sale for Rampage on the Friday, where they reportedly sold over 12,000 tickets, making the sellout most likely, and indeed they did. AEW first announced the United Center as the location for Rampage last Wednesday. They announced that AEW was coming to the United Center for the first dance last Wednesday. Fast forward to this Wednesday, they're sold out. It took them 7 days. Well, not even that. It took them minutes to sell out the United Center, but they announced it last Wednesday, and they sold it out a few days later. That is beyond impressive. Even WWE would love to do that right now. That's I mean, you have to credit them. You might not like AEW, you might not like their style of broadcasting and their style of pro wrestling or whatever. That is unbelievably impressive. They've sold out the United Center by just announcing the event a couple of days prior. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Obviously, a big part of that is the unspoken debut of CM Punk. A lot of people are pretty much speculating. It hasn't been confirmed, but AEW has strongly hinted that that's where Punk's debut is going to be. Punk himself has strongly hinted that's where his debut is going to be. And to those in WWE that say that they don't think there's much stock left in CM Punk, the guy, without even being announced, being teased, just teased, not announced, just teased, very subtly. And obviously that stuff leaking out on social media, which now you kind of think maybe they leaked out on purpose because they wanted to sell out the United Center. Nevertheless, Punk being teased for a show, not announced, teased for a show, sold out the United Center in Chicago. There is a lot of stock left in CM Punk's name, especially in the city of Chicago, of course, his hometown. So it's a huge, huge credit to AEW and very, very impressive. And I, like everyone else, am beyond excited to see what this second episode of Rampage is going to look like in the United Center. And it's not that far away. It's only 16 days away now, so a couple of weeks. So I, like everyone else, very, very excited about what this is going to look like. Speaking of CM Punk, finally, Kenta, New Japan star Kenta, wants to face CM Punk in the ring. The Japanese star took to Twitter recently and made a brief statement, making it known he wants a match with Punk. Now it appears that Punk is making his long-awaited return to professional wrestling. He simply tweeted out, quote, "Give me CM Punk." Now, the Punk versus Kenta talk goes all the way back to when Punk began using the GTS in WWE several years ago. That was in, 2007 when he was back in ECW? I mean, this is a long, long time ago. Punk once acknowledged that he stole the move from Kenta, who had, of course, been using the move in Japan and innovated the move. When he was asked by a fan on Twitter in 2012 where he got the move from, he said, quote, "Stole it from Kenta, that's right." Now, Kenta has taken a few shots at Punk over the years during media interviews, but the two have never met in the ring. It looks like Kenta is still hoping to secure that match now that Punk is reportedly making his return to the ring. Obviously, New Japan and AEW have a working relationship. Kenta has worked a match inside of an AEW ring. It's possible. It's absolutely possible that could happen. And You know, Punk kind of seems to be calling his shots as to who he really wants to work with. Darby Allin's been rumored. Obviously, Kenny Omega's been rumored. He's kind of spoken of a desire to face people he hasn't faced before. He's never faced Kenta before. Maybe it can finally happen inside of an AEW ring. I wouldn't rule it out. So you never know. You never know. If recent wrestling history has taught us anything, it's like who knows what is really going on right now in the world of pro wrestling. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these AEW news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, get the rankings, and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.